Hello again. This is going to be another flight in a series of flights I'm doing in X-Plane 11 using FJS's 737-200, my aircraft of choice. We're in Alaska Library, and we're currently at Santa Barbara Airport, and we've got weather about a 400-foot ceiling with 3 miles visibility set up. And we're going to be going to San Francisco and landing on runway 28 left there. This will be flight will document a full what's called cold and dark startup. So I'll be starting the aircraft from a cold situation, no power, and then programming the flight. I'll be using the standard X-Plane's flight management computer, which is integral in this airplane from courtesy of FJS. And this flight is dedicated to someone who recently helped me do some things. His name is Mike Jones. He is one of the senior maintenance personnel at Harborview Medical Center, part of the University of Washington network in Seattle. And he has, after long extensive waiting, has come and fixed up my bathroom, and I'm just so appreciated. And we talked quite a bit about his area of expertise and a little bit about mine. So I'm going to leave a link to Harborview if anyone is interested in seeing what they do down in the description. So let's go ahead and get started. It's going to go inside their aircraft. And per the checklist, I have it documented. I've done this a lot of times as well, so a lot of it's by memory, but I do have the checklist running. So first step is to turn on the main power. This is the overhead panel, upper portion of it. And we do that turning the battery on, which will then give power to the main systems. We next want to power up the APU, or auxiliary power unit, so we can get power to the rest of the aircraft. So we'll go down here, and the APU feeds off of the aft main wing tank fuel pump. So that needs to go on. And next, a simple matter of just turning the APU switch here to the down position and monitor the EGT rise here. And once it does start to rise, we can let go of the switch. And next we want to turn on the position lights on BAT. We don't have full power yet, so which indicates power to the aircraft, so ground personnel know power is running. I like to go outside here and we'll look. We should be hearing the APU spinning up. Always like that sound. The APU is just another jet engine, much smaller of course, and it runs off of the same fuel that the main engines run off of. And we can hear that turning. So let's go back inside. What we're waiting for now is for EGTs here to stabilize. It should go up a little bit and then go back down again. And then this light comes on, which it just did, which now indicates that the APU is ready. What we want to do next is go ahead and turn on the APU generator, which then actually does the supplying of power to the rest of the aircraft. And these two center switches will turn it on. Okay, we now have full power to the aircraft. And the next step is actually to do some pre-flighting on the overhead. For some reason, I've just gotten the habit. I like to go down to the FMC. And once again, this is not part of this aircraft when it was originally built back and used back in the late 60s and 70s. This is FJS's implementation of the standard X-Plane FMC, which I like to use, so I'm going to use it. So what we want to do first is go set up a flight plan for it to work properly. So we are departing from Sierra Bravo Alpha, which is our departure airport. Oh, and while I'm thinking, I forgot to mention, if you'd like to see this flight and skip all this portion, I will put some notes into when we actually do depart and when we're ready for a descent into San Francisco. So we can skip all that. The first portion. Okay, our destination is Kilo Sierra Foxtrot Oscar, San Francisco. The K, of course, is the country code for the United States. That has to preface the actual three-letter identifier, which we all know. That goes in our destination. Next, I like to go ahead and put our destination as a fix. We can monitor that in flight for updated ETAs to the airport, and it gives the idea of how far we have to go. Okay, so FMC has told us that it's 227 nautical miles directly to the airport, of course, which is not we'll be doing actually flying to different fixes to the airport. But that's direct line as the crow flies. The direct course to it would be the reciprocal of this number. So if we add 200, that's 335 minus 20. So that's what 305 is a direct course. All right, so next let's go ahead and set up our route. And two ways to do this. You can do this on the legs page or the direct intercept page. And I like to start with a direct page. And let's take a look at our planned flight here. I'm going to bring up, I like using Edge. It's a browser which opens up these charts very nicely. This is the FAA's low en route western planning chart. And I've outlined our course here. We're departing on Santa Barbara here and flying direct to Morro Bay VOR. That's Mike, Quebec Oscar. Then up to Big Sur VOR. Bravo Sierra Romeo, and then in a little bit to San Jose VOR, that's SJC, and then feeding ourselves into the approach. And if we go to the approach plate here, is the approach where we'll be executing from San Jose. There is no direct route, and most in my time in flying this airport, you never get this far anyway. Even if you had flight plan, you're always going to be getting vectors for traffic and whatever. So probably what I'll be doing is either going from San Jose direct to one of the initial fixes, in this case DVAC, which is 24.9 miles out via the localizer's DME, and at 7,000. So that's probably what we're going to do. I may vector ourselves, but we'll see. We should get the localizer at that point. And of course, you can see the line here. This is a descent, so at that altitude and distance, it should come in pretty nicely from that point. I'll be putting in fixes here, showing the plane profile here as we in the FMCs as a backup to the ILS, and for sure we'll be putting in the final approach fix, which is due yet. Delta Uniform Yankee Echo Tango, 7.7 miles out. And that's purposes of if glide slope were to fail and we were able to continue, this identifies our final approach fix for timing purposes in the event of a missed approach. Alrighty, so that's the plan. Let's go back to the airplane, and so let's go ahead and put all that information in. As you can see, FMC does different things different times when you want to go direct places. In this case, it's already put in our departure airport, and frankly, this started showing up a couple weeks ago, and I have no idea what this is supposed to be. But we're going to get rid of all this. So what we want to do here is go ahead and put in the identifier for our first fix, which will be the Morro Bay VOR Mike Quebec Oscar. We'll be departing on runway 7 at Santa Barbara, so it's going to be, that's to the east, so it'll be a fairly sharp, almost a 180-degree turn, about to start heading north. So let's go ahead and put in Mike, Quebec, Oscar to our, that's where we want to go direct first. That goes in the line selected up here in the upper left first slot, and identify that is what we want. So we want to go and execute. The next our waypoint is the Big Sur VOR, Bravo Sierra Romeo. So we'll put Bravo Sierra Romeo. Now, we have an option of doing two things here. If we put it line selecting here in L3 position on the left side, that will work, but what will happen is it'll create a discontinuity, which is then FMC says, okay, now you want to go here, now how are you going to get to this position? So what I find usually works is to go ahead and line select it down below the fixes that you don't want. In this case, it's giving us the choice between the VOR that we want, 137 miles from present location, or this other one, which I have no idea where it is, 6,000 miles away. Well, obviously we don't want that one. So I'm going to put that in, and that is what we want. So I'm going to execute that. Now, to clean this up, you can do this, I believe you can actually, if you do this on a direct page, it may just create a discontinuity, but let's go ahead and go to the legs page. And I believe if we just bring line select BSR down to the scratch pad and right up here to our next waypoint, which is where we want to go, Big Sur after Morro Bay. And yes, so it erases the information that we don't want and puts that as our next waypoint. So that is what we want. And you can continue to add here fixes here on the legs page or on the direct intercept page. We'll stay here on the legs page. So our next fix is going to be the San Jose VOR, Sierra Juliet Charlie. Just confirm that is what, yes, that's what we want. Sierra Juliet Charlie. And we'll execute that. Okay. So from this point, like I say, the flight plans, you always get flight plan to the approach fixes and airport and so forth. The FMC already knows we want to go to San Francisco, so we don't need to put that in. But I'm going to do now is, excuse me, going to go ahead and put in some of those fixes from the approach. And we'll do that here next. Okay, as we said, we're going to go from the San Jose VOR probably to DVAC, which will be a little bit to the west, but pretty much north from the VOR. And we may do that, may vectors ourselves back to the south on a downwind, but probably we'll just stick with that. So let's go ahead and put in Delta India Victor Echo Charlie. Let's see what kind of course it gives us. Oh, that's closer than I remembered. Okay, DVAC's only 4 miles from the VOR. I was thinking it was further. So we'll do that. And let's go to the next page, put the next fix in. So after DVAC, inbound, this will be inbound on the approach course. Next fixed is Ponke, Papa, Oscar, November, Kilo, Echo. And between those two fixes, we should pretty close to the inbound course on the approach. Okay, it's calculated 286 degrees. Inbound course on the approach is 284, so that's pretty darn close. And it's always a good idea to confirm you are on the second page. What you don't want to do is put Ponke and end up being on the first page. So after Ponke, well, let's see, there are about 4 fixes here on the approach. Well, let's put one more in here. 15 miles out is Rockme. That's Romeo, Oscar, Kilo, Mike, Echo. And it's 7 miles from Ponke, and we'll put one more in for, as we talked about earlier, we're going to put in Do Yet, which is the final approach fix on a non-precision glide slope out approach. And that fix is 7.7 miles out. So let's go ahead and put that one in. Delta, Uniform, Yankee, Echo, Tango. So there's our route. Let's go back to the previous page. Okay, so what it's done, it still wants to, it's got our present position as our initial, no, I take that back. Okay, Morro Bay is showing up as our first fix. That's the active waypoint, so we're good. So let's see, let's go back to the fixed page. So we are going to, it's about 227 nautical miles to the airport for our present location. And we are going to be flying westerly. So even altitudes, let's just go ahead and put in 50280 as our cruising altitude, which displays on the FMC here. And our climb profile is indicated here, 290, Mach 0.74, transition altitude where we switch to standard pressure is 50180. Our transition altitude is 10,000 feet. We can resume normal speed, so we will not exceed 250 knots until we get above 10,000. For cruise, like we said, we're going to cruise at 50280, so we'll put that in our cruising altitude. And now, what the FMC will calculate a descent profile when recommended descents down to our destination airport should be made. So we go back to legs page. It's not here. The reason why it's not here is because we've taken the airport, the SBA of Santa Barbara, out of the fixed page here, so it doesn't know what our departure airport is. We have to go back to the flight plan here and then put Kilo, Sierra, Bravo, Alpha back as our origin. Now it'll show up, but most likely what's going to happen here is going to go ahead and put some fixes around the airport back on the route. So let's take a look. Yeah, see, it's put the airport back as the initial departure point, and then going to the present position where the aircraft is currently located. So let's go back to the direct page, and let's just bring Morro Bay down a scratch pad and put it up to the direct. That should erase those two first listings there and put Morro Bay at the top. And checking our route, Morro Bay, Big Sur, San Jose, DVAC, Teponki, Rockme, and then Juliet is all correct. And our descent profile here, as you can see, is now calculated when it's recommending descending from our cruising altitude down to these intermediate fixes. So let's go ahead and execute that. And okay, we are now ready to fly this route. Route is in, our cruising altitude is set. So let's go ahead and continue with pre-flighting the aircraft here. We want to pre-flight the overhead, and here again, per the checklist, this is all per the checklist applied with this aircraft, is the yaw damper here needs to go on, galley power here needs to go on, emergency exit lights armed, and we also turn on the window heat at this time. And working our way down the panel, I want to verify that the air inlet is set to PAX cabin, which it is. And the left pack needs to stay on. That's for the APU. And the right pack goes off. APU bleed needs to go on. So the reason for that is it needs the bleed power here to operate, and then we'll actually turn this off a little later when it's time to start engines, because we need that air to start the engines. So EPU is bleeding on. This is the pressurization panel, and we're going to be flying at 280. So let's go ahead and put in 280 for our cruising altitude. San Francisco's elevation is 13 feet. So we will go ahead and pressurize the aircraft till we get within 20 feet, which is more than adequate. So here is our cabin altitude display panel. It will, once we're in flight, it will show what the cabin altitude is, and it's set to 6,000 feet, so it'll be climbing as the aircraft climbs, obviously at a much slower rate, and it'll show us the cabin altitude as we climb. Okay, that's it for the overhead panel for now. Let's go back down and look at our main cockpit view. And we have an annunciator light now. The master caution lights. This will all be taken care of as we power up the rest of the aircraft. But right now, this is a kind of annunciator panel giving us things to look at and confirm. I'm not sure why the altitude light, is on. A lot of times when it's set to other than local pressure, this light will come on, but 3009 is what we have. Actually, let's check that. Here's our weather panel. Oh, okay, yep, 3009 is what we want. So I'm not sure why this light's on, but we're good. Okay, next let's take a look at weight and balance. Here again, this is all utility set up and given to us by FJS. Yeah, it could. It's fun. It's fun finding the later airplanes with the full flight management system. Of course, this does not have that, so there's no VNAV, vertical navigation capability. But it will. It gives us those altitudes as we saw. It does calculate that, but it won't fly it. So, but that's okay with me. I love this aircraft. It's old school compared to what's current now, but the way it's been set up is just beautiful to me. Okay, what we're seeing here is information over here is what our current status is. So let's. What I'd like to start off with is a fuel load. Right now, it's telling us the current fuel that we have on board, about 5,000 pounds of fuel in either wing tank, as here displayed on the fuel panel. Gives us a range of just under 500 miles. We're going about half that. The weather's it's marginal, non-precision approach to ceiling and visibility. The first thing I like to do is go ahead and just even up the flight a little bit. Even up the tanks here a little bit. So I'll have 5,000 on the right and 5,028 on the left. And of course the APU is running off the left aft fuel tank, and that's why we just saw that change. So it's burning fuel off of it. And by the time we probably shut it down, these numbers will pretty close to each other. I like flying with a little bit in the center tank. We can put up to 1,000 pounds in the center fuel tank, and not worry about turning on the overhead fuel pumps for it here. And if we put more than 1,000 pounds of fuel in, then these pumps need to go on once we start up. But under that, we don't need to do that. I just like to use the center tank. The aircraft will use the center tank for climb, and as fuel is used up, it'll automatically go to the center tanks. So right now we have a range of about 570 miles. And just for grins here, I'll throw just a little bit more in the center tanks. I have a cruising range of 645 nautical miles. Our current load passenger-wise is 81, and they're all shown here in this panel, and that's fine. We'll stick with that. So our maximum takeoff weight is 119,500 pounds. Max landing is 105,000 pounds. And let's go and take a look at some of these numbers. So these are our numbers that are currently the aircraft is currently set at. It's calculating, it wants 2.15 EPIRS for takeoff, which is displayed here. On the EPIR cage, it's already set in 2.15. That's going to be our takeoff power. 97.4 N1 corresponds to the same value. V1 and VR, these are our takeoff speeds. It'll actually rotate the aircraft 132. V1 is safety speed. V2 is best climb single engine speed. So that will be our target once we're above that, and we're safe to continue if there's any sort of emergency with the engines. Flaps 1 need to go up by 153, and flaps up completely by 190. Side note, 153 is pretty tough to hit. You've got to raise those flaps pretty early if you want to beat that speed, because aircraft will accelerate above that speed very quickly. Okay, our takeoff weight is 97,876 pounds currently, which is what we're under 20. We're less than 20,000 pounds under gross. I didn't say that right. We're still 20,000 plus pounds under gross weight. Fuel on board is just under 12,000 pounds. Flaps 2 is what we'll use for departure. We'll set that on the taxiway out. And stab trim, which is elevator trim, has been calculated at 4.53. FJS has implemented a very nice shortcut key at 2 on the numerical keyboard. That brings us down here to the stabilizer trim wheel. And you can do it manually or simply click in this area here where it's green and automatically set 4.53. We're pretty close to that right now, so it's not going to change much. Okay, so there's our trim setting. So we are pretty much ready for pushback and engine start. Let's go ahead and go outside here, and cabin crew says that all souls are on board. So I'm going to go here to the side window here and start bringing in the doors. And we'll start with the rear air stairs. We'll track them. We'll track the forward air stairs and the main entry. Now we can actually go to the overhead panel, and these are all monitored right here. And these lights will tell us when they are actually closed right now. They're open. The stairs take fairly long. This was the forward entry door, which closes fairly quickly. These stairs have to collapse and then fold in to the fuselage. Okay, all doors are set and closed, I should say. So we are ready for pushback. Once again, we'll be pushing back and facing a little bit to the west, and then taxiing. So let's just bring up, take a look at that. Here's our taxi diagram. This is a plug-in for X-Plane 11. And let's go ahead and get rid of that overlay. Oops. Let's get rid of the overlay here. All right, so this is our current position. So we'll be taxiing out to this taxiway right here. The Mike taxiway. This runs between the two shorter parallel runways here at Santa Barbara. And then we'll be taxiing down Mike and then joining Alpha. It's a long taxi. We're to runway 7. Runway is lower 6,000 feet. So it's some of a challenge. To land here, it's 3.7 does just fine. I can't remember offhand how short a runway you can land this thing, but I know they land a lot shorter runways here when this aircraft was used up in Alaska. So that's our current location. So let's go ahead and contact ground people for pushback and start clearance. I used a better pushback plugin for X-Plane, and FJS has implemented that plugin into this aircraft. So instead of having to go up to plugins and better pushback and do anything here via the menu here, you can just do it automatically here by pushing the ground call button for 5 seconds. So let's go ahead and do that.
Hey, Captain, let me know where you want this thing.
Oh boy, they use a couple of voices in this plugin. That's what I don't like. I probably say that on all my videos, but they just don't talk like that. Sorry. All right, so right now is the overhead view. The aircraft there is outlined in green is the current. That's what that's calculated is what we want. And I could stick with that. But I'm going to have us go back a little bit further. So to get rid of that one, you hit the delete key on the keyboard. And here, that makes this one active. I'm just moving the mouse around left and right. And when I want the aircraft where I want it to be, it's a matter of clicking and then pushing the enter key. That will send the request to the ground folks.
Great news, Captain. Your tow's coming.
Okay, he tells tow's coming. So preparing for engine start, and I can see what I missed. I wasn't watching the checklist at the time. No smoking signs and fasten seatbelt signs need to go on. So to prepare for engine start, all main wing tank fuel pumps go on, which we're turning on now. So these are all on. Lights are out. The other item to turn on, these are electric hydraulic pumps need to go on. These are the engine-driven pumps over here, and these lights, of course, will go out once the engines are running. Next, we need to turn the left pack off. We need a minimum of 30 psi for engine start. Right now it's about 20. We'll turn the pack off. Now we're getting almost 40 pounds.
All right, looks like the doors and hatches are closed and we're ready to connect.
Roger that. I like to interact with them. Makes it more realistic for me. Okay, so that's the last actual step we have to do. We do need to turn the anti-collision lights on.
We got that winching strap and adapter hooked up. Go ahead and let go of the parking brake when you're ready for a push.
Okay, we are ready to push. Brakes are released. So we should be starting to push here momentarily.
Here comes the pushback. Light them up.
Okay, and of course standard ops is engine start. Once the pushback is started, you don't start the engines at the gate. So now we're pushing away from the gate, so we can go ahead and do that. So anti-collision light is turning on. These are the start switches here, and what you do is you turn these to the ground position for start. Okay, we're turning to, and come down here, take a look. What we're looking for is N2, the high pressure side of the turbine here, and we need to get 20% here rotation, and then we come down here to the fuel levers, and there's 20%. So we introduce fuel and monitor. N2 is continuing to rise, fuel flow starting to rise, EGT is rising, N1 starting to rise, and oil pressure is rising. So far we got a good start going here. I like to take a look outside to see what he's doing with us. It's looking good. Okay, the oil pressure light is out here, which means that number 2 has started correctly. And
just about done here. Go ahead and set your parking brake.
Roger. Brakes are set.
And we're disconnecting the tow. Give me just a moment.
Okay, so he's going to be gone here momentarily, but always advise. So we're turning 1, and same procedure. N2 is rising. Yeah, go ahead and disconnect. N2 is rising. We're looking for 20%. There's 20%. Fuel is introduced. N2 continuing to rise. Fuel flow is rising. EGT is rising. N1 is rising. Oil pressure is rising.
And we're disconnected. Signal and pin on the left. Take it easy and have a safe flight.
Roger that. Thanks much. Okay. We're just waiting for the oil pressure light to go on, which it just did. So oil pressure now is green, both engines. So what we want to do next is get the engine-driven generators online, which will then take the APU generator offline, which then illuminates the light, indicating the APU is now offline. Going to the overhead, I want to turn the pitot-static heat on. And we're going through some clouds, so we'll be a little cautious here. Let's go ahead and turn on wing and engine anti-ice. Sure it doesn't hurt. And we want to turn the packs back on. APU bleed off. Pressurization switch right here between ground and flight. We need to go to, oh, I did not do a proper shutdown previously. That's in the ground position now. We need in the flight position. It's not good. My bad. Okay, position lights now in the on position. Start switches, we're going to go ahead and turn to flight. And if we're going to be in some clouds here, that's why we're going to go to flight here, which keeps ignition of the engines constant. Low ignition is recommended all times otherwise. And last step is turn off the APU. This light will extinguish once the APU is offline, which it has done. So we are ready to taxi. I think our marshaller has left already, probably. Yeah, they're gone. All right, we're now ready to taxi. So I'm going to bring release the parking brake. It's just been done. Let's bring up the taxi diagram one more time. And this displays what we're going to be taxiing. So we'll be taxiing straight ahead and hanging a right here. So looking good. All warning lights and advisory lights are extinguished. Master caution light is extinguished. Take a look outside. There's Santa Barbara. I'm not sure if that terminal is really current. I did the plug-in upgrade that updates all the scenery recently, and that got changed. That might be accurate. I don't know. It just changed to be somewhat different than I was expecting. There's a taxiway we just passed we actually can take, but then you have to cross both runways and further down. So at least watching the AI aircraft 37800 Laminar research is oftentimes here. Watching it taxi, it always went this way, and this makes the most sense. That's why we're going this way. This, by the way, is Alaska's older colors. The new ones are different, but I like using this because that's the colors this aircraft flew in. Okay, let's take a look to see what the folks in the cabin are seeing.
Approaching 3 left.
That's another plugin that's RAAS plugin that advises when we're approaching in runways and runway lengths. Okay, going back to the cockpit. I do use a second computer. I have a little mini Mac that has X-Plane installed on it, full installation. I use that for external views. So there are times when it may look like I'm maybe not watching where I'm going, but I am. Sometimes I'll get active in other parts of the cockpit in the airplane or in the back's cabin. Okay, so let's go ahead and set flaps for departure. Once again, we're using flaps 2. So I'm using keyboard shortcut. Flaps are not coming down, as indicated right here. Flaps 2 are now set. So I'll be turning left here on taxiway Alpha and taxiing all the way down to the approach end of runway 7. That's a little fast. Okay, as we're taxiing down, let's review the numbers here. Once again, V1 and VR are both 132 in this particular case at the current aircraft weight. Flaps 2 are set, stab trim of 4.5. That's changed slightly. Let's just take a quick look. See if that changes. Yeah, see it changed a little bit. Now 4.5. And where the other speeds are all the same. Try to get the flaps 1 by 153 and up by 190, which is a little easier chore. And I see something else I forgot to do. Let's go ahead and set up the radios here. It's going to be going direct here via GPS. Our first fix, Mobile VR, is course 306, departing on runway 7. You can see that's a pretty extensive turn here. So go ahead and set in 300 on the heading bug, I should say. And that's what we'll fly on departure. We're also still on standard nav, so we need to change to GPS, which is right here on the panel. So now the HSI, or primary nav, well, our artificial rising is now telling us our first fix is course of 306 and 67 miles. And of course this panel now says, is this what you really what you want? And it is. Okay, let's slow down here a little bit. It's a relatively short runway and we're fairly heavy, so I'm going to go ahead and take full length here. Okay, position, hold, Alaska 738. You can actually use the taxi diagram here to monitor our position. The lines tell us where we want to go, but what we want to do is turn.
Approaching 7.
We want to turn so the center longitudinal axis of the aircraft is on the center line of the runway. And so we'll start this turn about here.
On runway 7.
Okay, position and hold. We'll set brakes. All right, done with the taxi diagram. So we'll cancel that. And I'll be bringing up both the FMC and the moving map to show us our progress. The one caveat about the moving map is I use the low and route chart, and its display is vertical, and the Abitab, the plugin that we use to do that in, for some reason it doesn't display the aircraft proper orientation in in charts that run vertical as opposed to charts that run horizontal. So it'll look kind of funky, but it should be pretty accurate. Okay, clear for takeoff, runway 7, we'll fly heading of 300 on departure in Alaska 738. So what we want to do here is turn on all the lights.
On runway 7. On runway 7.
These are all the runway or the landing lights that illuminate out front. Taxi light goes on, strobe light goes on, and everything else looks good. Once again, 132 is our target speed. So it's 5:15 local. Brakes are released. So bringing the power up, let it stabilize, engine stabilize a little bit, about half power. Okay, once again looking for EPRs of 2.15. That's something the PNF pilot not flying will trim. Okay, go ahead and set power. Okay, power is set.
80 knots.
That's the FO. He's calling out speed, so call V1 and then rotate.
V1, rotate.
And we want about 2 degrees per second. There's positive rate, flaps 1 gear up. See, we got, that's hard to do. Try to get the flaps up by 150. Okay, we want about 15 degrees nose up. I'm going to go ahead and arm the flight director in the heading mode, which is now armed. Let's get that nose back down. Aircraft accelerate. Okay, flaps up, gear off. Okay, left heading of 300, leaving 4,000, Alaska 738. Okay, as we can see, the flight director is indicating that's what it wants us to do to make that turn to that desired heading. Let's see if I can stay on heading here. Okay, coming up on 4,000. So our left heading of 300. We also want to reduce the power here to climb, which I'll do here as soon as I finish this turn. 25 degrees now is standard bank rate, bank angle. I believe it used to be 30. I think it's about 25. So I'm going to turn all the way to heading at 300. We're now indicating 200, climbing about 4,000 feet a minute, and that's a little greater climb rate than we probably would have because we would have PNF would have reduced power to climb here, but I'm a little busy right now flying the airplane, so I'll do that here shortly. Okay, there's our assigned heading. Start to roll out half the amount of degrees that you want prior to. Oops, a little too far. Alright, so I'm going to do here, free myself up, is I'm going to go ahead and activate. I'll get some trim in here so we can get the climb rate, keep the climb rate. I'm going to go ahead and activate that autopilot here. Give me these two switches over here. Oops. And it'll automatically activate the flight director to hold the heading for us. As indicated here on the panel, green indicating that it is tracking, it is holding out heading. The amber lights here indicate this is that the assigned and set altitude has not been reached, and these will turn green once that does happen. Okay, this aircraft actually climbs and descends per airspeed. You adjust the power for the desired descent rate or climb rate. So what we want to do here is go ahead and climb at 250 knots to make sure we don't exceed that. That's done here over on the on this panel here, on the autopilot panel, and you switch to indicate airspeed selector, which I just did. So now the aircraft, what it'll do is we're going to lower the nose as necessary to maintain 250 knots, not go above it, and it'll adjust the climb rate to do that. Now what we need to do is come back on climb power here. 92% N1 is fairly standard. That's the second gauges down here, both set at 92. So now climb power is set. Okay, we're 60 miles from our first fix to start tracking. I'm going to bring up the FMC here. Okay, clear direct Morro Bay, rest route unchanged, common maintain flight level 280, Alaska 738. So what we could do is get a heading for it, of course, and that would require ATC action, but to recenter this and get a new course to Morro Bay, you just bring Morro Bay down to scratch pad and back up to the direct 2 and execute, and it shouldn't change much, but it should change a little bit. Okay, our new course now is 301. Now to get the aircraft to fly that, we change over here from manual to tracking localizer, which is now enunciated. Nav or localizer, the nav/localizer now active, showing green, and we are tracking via the GPS. Once again, the altitude hold will turn green once we get to our assigned altitude of flight level 280. And I'm having issues with this flight director, and right now this should still be the amber color because we're not at our altitude yet, but this light should be green. And I don't know, updates that were done with both X-Plane and with this aircraft has somehow interjected some gremlins in here, and for some reason that does not work correctly anymore. So I'm going to turn the flight director off. The aircraft will fly and work just fine without it. So okay, we are 52 miles to our first fix of Morro Bay. Course of 301. Let's bring up the FMC one more time. What I like to do is get a general idea of our ETE. So our present speed is Mach 0.52. Half speed of sound. So we're climbing at a good rate. Okay, we're coming up on 50180, so let's go ahead and set standard pressure of 29902. And so our present speed of direct course 208 miles, 38 minutes ETE. And of course that's going to decrease here as our speed increases. Standard cruise range for this aircraft is anywhere between Mach 0.72 and Mach 0.77. Let's go back to our direct page and go ahead and bring up our moving map. And this is displaying our position accurately, but we're actually flying. Let's get a little closer here. There's Morro Bay VOR. That's where we're heading, and as the aircraft is going towards it, but as you can see, in charts that are oriented north-south, basically, the display here, the airplane display, doesn't switch. On some other charts in this plugin, gives you the option to change orientation of the chart, but for some reason it does not work for this low and mount chart. I got trying to zoom and had the mouse cursor still on this chart here, so that was not what I wanted to do. So let's bring that back in the scale we want. So once again, this BOR right here is our current waypoint, and let's take a look at the area chart here. So here, once again, we're heading right here to Morro Bay, and our next waypoint here is Big Sur, and then direct up to San Jose VOR, and then turning to the approach course, which is to the west, 28, so it's more or less in this direction, and this is our approach we'll be executing. And once again, I'll probably go ahead and just stick with the course that we have from San Jose VOR to DVAC, 25 miles out, and to start tracking GPS inbound. And somewhere probably between DVAC and Ponke is 21.6, I'll switch between GPS and standard nav, which will then activate the ILS. So on that note, let's go ahead and prepare for get ahead of the game here and bring up the ILS approach plate for San Francisco 28 left. The VOR is right at the airport, which is nice. So I'm hitting number 3 on the keyboard here to come down to the standard nav and communication panel. So we want 115.8 on number 2, which is San Francisco VOR. Is now set. Localizer frequency we'll be using for the approach into the airport on 28 left is 109.55. By the way, I do have a subscription to Navigraph, so this is the most recent approach plate, which looks like it has not changed since last year. Okay, 109.55, which is now set. So our conventional navs are now set. I just hit the number 3 key on the keyboard again, and it just takes you back to the previous view, which is what we have here. And I like to just display the, actually, let's just do that again. Got off kilter there a little bit. I do run external view on my Mac, Mini Mac, so I like to keep this display pretty much right on the cockpit view. Okay, 2,000 feet to go to our assigned altitude. Current climb rate's 1,000 feet a minute, so we're 2 minutes away. And I'll probably be, I will be pausing once we get established at cruise, and we'll pick up the recording again. So this display here is number 2 DME Alpha number 2 nav. Of course, we're still too far away from San Francisco to get a reading here, but as we get closer, it will display. And same thing with the RMI here. This gives it's dual needle. Right now, the single needle would point to any active VOR. This goes to number 2 nav aid, and WO is for ADF. Of course, the HSI here is slaved right now to the GPS. Okay, coming up on 1,000 to go. There's our altitude alert. It lights up and get 1,000. It also light up again about 200 feet prior to, and it'll actually start capturing. It'll capture that altitude, sign altitude around that 200 feet prior to, and the switch over here will switch from climbing at commanded airspeed. It'll switch over to altitude hold here automatically. Okay, 500 feet to go. And once we get about 200 feet prior to this, the altitude hold light will then turn green, indicating that the autopilot has captured the assigned altitude of 51280. And this switch here will switch from indicate airspeed to over to altitude hold. Okay, the light now has turned green, so altitude has been captured, and the switch has now switched over to altitude hold. So we are in there. Okay, it's leveling now at 50280. 3 miles to go to the Big Sur VOR, and excuse me, to the Morro Bay VOR. And then 70 miles to Big Sur VOR, and then 73 to San Jose VOR. Okay, we just passed Morro Bay. We're now turning to 310. Navigate to the Big Sur VOR. Take a look back here. Our passenger view. And let's take a look outside. Look at some views here. Frontal view. I get in the bad habit of forgetting to do the descent checklist, and part of that is to turn all the lights back on again. And so I just leave them on. My bad. Let's do a flyby. Maybe do a flyby. Okay. And go back to that previous view. Let's go back inside the cockpit. Alright, let's get an updated ET. Oh, shoot. Let's set some cruise power here. Usually I set around 1.85. So depending on the altitude, we're actually fairly low. This aircraft flies very nicely in the mid-30s. So it's probably going to need less power. We'll monitor. So right now we are up to Mach 0.72. And indicating 284 knots. Here's our barber pole here, and our maximum would be at that. This is our indicated right here. So it's probably pretty close to a good power setting. Let's do a quick update here to our ATE. Okay, should now be about 20 minutes out. It's 146 miles currently. Back to fix. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause here, and we'll pick up again once we're ready to start on down into our descent in San Francisco. Okay, back with you. We're a little bit behind the power curve. got involved with a couple of things here in the house. So it's definitely time to start down. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So we want to go down to 7,000 feet here. And to initiate all that, once again, the aircraft descends and climbs at given airspeeds. We want to descend at 250 knots. So I'm going to change this back to indicated airspeed. That changes this necessary light to amber instead of green. Next, we want to reduce the power. Most descents are made at power off completely at flight idle. So that's what's happening now. Our speed is decreasing. In fact, a little bit behind the power curve here, so I'm going to go ahead and throw in some spoilers here. So via the keyboard, in fact, let's go back and take a look at that happening. I like to watch it happen from the PAX standpoint. Okay, there's first notch of spoilers activated. Let's go ahead and put in full spoilers. Which will definitely initiate a very aggressive descent rate, probably at least 3,000 feet a minute, be close to 4. So we're tracking our progress here. San Jose VOR is right here, and that's where we are currently heading 40 miles. This is our present position. Once again, our aircraft looks cattywampus here because we're working off of a vertical en route chart instead of horizontal. Alright, we'll probably be going direct to these fixes. So I'm going to do is set inbound course of 284, which is the inbound course on the approach. And that keeps me oriented as our approach is going to be going this direction. That's the heading bug here pointing to 284. Okay, DME now is showing now 53 miles. That's our distance to the VOR at San Francisco and pretty much the airport. Yeah, I wish they'd implement a way where you can actually change the orientation of the chart, but I have not seen it. And we may have to go on delay vectors here so we can get down. D vector is only 4 miles from the San Jose VOR, which is 25 miles out from the airport. The FMC is recommending an altitude somewhere around 7,000, which is exactly the altitude we want to go. It's actually 7245, and then 6,300 at DVAC. And that's just to make it the continual descent down to the elevation of the airport. All right, we're now below flight 180. We need to go to local pressure 3009. We have about 10,000 feet still to descend. and we are descending at 3,000 feet a minute. So we're about 3 minutes from our desired altitude. So we'll be making about a 20-degree turn to DVEC, and then that's a pretty extensive turn to Ponke from DVEC. About 75 degrees. So I'm going to probably want to slow the airplane down quite a bit so we don't overshoot. And from this angle, this is actually, I'm surprised there isn't a transition between those two fixes, because that's pretty nice straight in, nice turn. We'll see how it works out here. Okay, coming up on 10,000, so we definitely want to be below 250 knots. Okay, 10 miles to the San Jose VOR. It's indicated on the HSI here, as well as on the FMC. So we are getting down in time. So let's go ahead and bring up the spoilers. I like to watch that happen. So those spoilers are now up. Excuse me, the spoilers are down. Okay, 1,000 feet to go. This altitude reminder here light just came on to let us know. So that worked out fairly nice. I did have to drop all spoilers to get down in time. So once we level off here, I'm going to let the aircraft continue to slow down here. And we are 3 greens here, still tracking via GPS. Altitude capture has been now indicated with a green annunciator light. I'm going to go ahead and slow down to see about 250 knots. I'm also going to start adding some flaps. Okay, let's go ahead and go with flaps 5. Okay, and that's a little too much flaps for the speed. That's why we started to climb there a little bit. Flaps give us both lift and drag. Okay, we're now heading towards DVAC. So only about a 20-degree turn. So the big one here is going to be a turn towards Ponke, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and let the autopilot fly it via GPS. With just 2 miles to go once we make that turn. Okay, and also getting a little slow here for this distance. We want no slower than 170 right now. We'll get a little bit more power. So it's going to be quite an aggressive turn here. Of course, at 285. So what the autopilot will do is set up a standard 45-degree intercept here. We just see here, that's the standard interception angle here, and here comes our course. Okay, Ponke is 3 miles out. That's 21.6 miles out. So as soon as we level off here, roll out, I should say, I'm going to go ahead and activate the localizer, which should be we should be pretty darn close to. So that's a switch right here. 2 miles to Ponke, so we're about 23 miles out. Well, 22 according to the DME on the UR. Okay, I just switched. Oh, nuts. My bad again. Boy, very bad here. This is what I always do before I depart. I didn't do it this time. I forgot to set up the inbound course on the approach, which is 284. It's still going to track it, but we want to get proper. Okay, now we see we're behind the power curve here. I'm not sure if it's going to intercept the glide slope or not. It's not going to. So what I need to do here is set up a descent so we can catch the glide slope. Here again, my apologies, my bad. So I need to go back to manual flight here. And what is going to happen here is going to lower the nose down to initiate a descent. Our minimums of 213 feet, so I'm going to set 200. That's good enough. And we need to switch this to indicate airspeed. Okay, so now it's been commanded to lower the nose to maintain 250 knots. So it's going to execute a rapid descent here to catch 250 on the speed. But the good news is, from our standpoint, is that it's going to allow us to catch up the glide slope. So let's just rearm everything here. The localizer is now active and it's captured. I'm going to activate glide slope tracking full approach, which it just did. So we're in good shape. We just re-intercepted both glide slope and localizer. So we're now 16 miles out. Let's go ahead and go flaps 10. And there's our airport right here. This is us going in on the approach. And let's go ahead and cancel out the Av tab. We're done using that chart. And we're done using the FMC. We have one more fix, the DUET, which is 7 miles out, so we're about 5.5 miles from it. Okay, we're slowing down to 210 knots. Let's go ahead and go flaps 15. You can see that back here on the PAX view. And we should have about a 400-foot ceiling, 3 miles visibility, basically as low as you want to go on a non-precision approach. So we should be able to see the airport at about 700, maybe 800 feet MSL. Okay, 11 miles out. And let's go ahead and start slowing back down to where we want to be. Here again, this is a lot of ATC. They will ask or tell you what speed they need depending on traffic and weather. San Francisco has two, it's like a tic-tac-toe diagram. That's what the runway displays are, runways are. So we're going to 28 left. There's an approach to 28 right, but they're actually too close together to use concurrently. So it can get busy on IFR days. Delay vectors are not at all unusual. All right, 7 miles out, so we just passed Duyet. Let's check our speed, VREF speed for landing. Okay, 127. It's fairly high. It's because of our weight. And flaps 30 is what is going to be our final flap setting. So let's go ahead and go flaps 25. Now set. Oh, got a break in the weather here. Okay, radar altimeter says we're 1,000 feet AGL. Okay, I'll slow here. Let's go gear down, flaps 30 for our landing checklist. Okay, flaps now set at 30. And so VREF's 127, so we're about VREF plus 20. A little slow for this.
Approaching 28 left.
A little slow for this far out, but I like VREF plus about 20 as we get within less than 500 feet, which is just about where we are now. So speed's looking good, we're nice and stabilized. Okay, before landing check, gears showing 3 green, flaps set at 30 for landing. Cross check, no flags, on course, on slope. VREF plus 20. So what I'll be doing here is reducing power here as we get a little closer in to get to our VREF speed, and which is happening now. And I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the autopilot here for manual landing. So you're pretty much right at VREF. Let's keep the nose up. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add thrust reverse. Seeing them in action. The old style thrust reversers. The spoilers come up automatically. They're armed for touchdown. I'm starting to slow down here, so let's go ahead and add some brakes. And that thrust reverse can be discontinued. Release the brakes. We keep moving here. So that's why we saw the spoilers deploy on touchdown. That's to help keep the aircraft on the ground. So I'm going to take this taxiway here. This is a fairly high speed. I like to watch everything gets retracted here, so I'm going to taxi via my external monitor as soon as we make this turn here. What we want to do is take the outside, outer, you would call it, taxiway here, so we're clear of any pushbacks that are going to happen over to our right, so we don't conflict, and that's probably what ground would want us to do. So taking a look back here, go ahead and lower the spoilers and raise the flaps. Oh, a little sensitive there. flew into this airport for almost a year in the regional, so it's one of my favorites. In fact, it's probably my most favorite place to go, airport-wise, other than SeaTac itself. Okay, so let's go ahead and after landing checks here. All the lights should go off. It's still daylight out, so we don't need landing lights, we don't need the taxi light, and we don't need strobe light. And we'll go ahead and start up the APU so we have power once we shut the engines down. Once again, I am monitoring our taxi on the external monitor. Okay, APU is starting up. And for some reason, this joystick throttle combination I have is just, I don't know why it just does not want to stay centered, so I do have to keep monitoring it. All right, let's bring up a taxi diagram for San Francisco and take a look and see what we're looking at here. So we want KSFO. Oops, that's not what we wanted. Okay. See, that's darn thing. Whoa, something's not right here. Oh,
Approaching 1 left.
I think I know what the problem is. I hope. Nope. Oh, we have a steering problem here all of a sudden. Huh. What are we doing? Oh, I've never experienced this before. My nose wheel steering has just failed, apparently. Let's see what the heck did they do here. Let's go to overlay. Brakes are not set, I don't think. Oops. Oh, brakes are not set. I don't know. Never had this happen. Well, you can see this is, I do everything unrehearsed. And I don't know what's going on here, but we lost nose wheel steering. And we're also sitting, I think we must be in pavement. That works. Oh, I lost nose wheel steering. It's just barely turning, but that should be turning a lot more. Yeah, they can't even steer with the rudder. What I'm going to do is let's take a look at our joystick here. Sorry for the delay here. Yeah, nose wheel steering appears to be working okay in the software. I think I'm going to do is just calibrate here. And feel free to back out. All I'm going to do is I'm going to go park the airplane and shut down. So if that's of no interest, certainly leave the flight, but I'm going to just, I'm going to go ahead and recalibrate here. Yeah, software is seeing everything properly. All right, let's see what happens here. Okay, release the brakes. Oh, we got a problem. Well, I don't know what the issue is. All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off, the recording off, and I will figure this out, see what's going on. But thanks for watching, and our next flight's probably going to be San Francisco to Seattle. Take care.